welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Liana. I apologize for the glare on my glasses, but I won't be here too long. Today's video is going to be something a little bit different. I am going to be sharing with you an original short story, something that I wrote about 11 years ago, and it was written around the time that my grandmother first started showing signs of dementia, and this was kind of one of my ways to kind of cope with it. A lot of the times, if there's something going on in my life, I like to write about it, and I kind of turned it into a dark fantasy story. But the other cool thing is that it is being read by a very, very nice man named Erik Ireland. And Erik runs a podcast called Listen to Sleep. Listen to Sleep is a podcast you can find on Spotify, iTunes, and everywhere else where you listen to podcasts. I started listening to it at the start of the year when I started developing worsening health issues and heart symptoms. Heart symptoms started giving me anxiety, and the anxiety made it so that I couldn't fall asleep. When I found Listen to Sleep, I found Erik's voice really comforting. Erik has a very sort of low, deep, soothing voice, and he reads bedtime stories from the public domain for adults. I had listened to a few sleep stories a few years back, and I found them very calming. I'm not the type of person who can listen to meditations and really get into them, so this is my way of meditating. And I think some of you will probably find them helpful too. Erik is just such a nice guy. I reached out to him and I asked him, "Are you still taking story submissions for your podcast?" And he said yes. So I sent him my story. He said it was a little too dark for the podcast, but he offered to send me a recording of it for my YouTube channel, which is what I'm going to share with you now. So I'm going to leave all of Erik's details up on the screen, and I'm also going to leave them down below. So if you would like to give the podcast a listen, I'm sure he would be grateful, and you might get some benefit from it. So without further ado, here is my story, The Oddity of Man, read aloud by Erik Ireland. Enjoy.
Content advisory. This story contains scenes of death and one brief mention of suicide.
The Oddity of Man. My name is Tobias Hicklewhite. I've died 17 times. The first time it happened was like having all the air rush out of your lungs and everything goes numb. You see nothing but white. I drowned. My limbs were flailing about me in a terrible mess, and it took 38 minutes to resuscitate me. The second time was slightly less unpleasant, though not an entirely recommended experience. I was attacked by a rabid dog. As he tore the flesh away from my bone and the blinding light came again once more, I knew what was coming. Death. And then I was back. I don't know how it keeps happening. I'm 64 years of age, and I've had 12 different kinds of cancer, 4 of them terminal. I've been electrocuted. I've been shot. Every time I die, I come back. It was around the 7th time of death, as I slipped on a particularly slippery patch of ice in the winter of 1997, that I realized I must be an oddity. As oddities come, I'm one of the oddest. Imagine going through life with the inability to stay permanently dead. There's something wrong with that sentence, but I shall append it later. Rather, what causes a person to die 17 times and manage to survive on every occasion? Well, the first conclusion I came to was that I had some friends in very high places. An angel, perhaps, some sort of guardian, maybe even God himself. Yes, I considered this many times as I bathed in white light, death softly embracing me in its clutches. Just to be clear, I am human. I've had more examinations than I care to count, and every one of them concludes that, yes, Mr. Hicklewhite, you are indeed in excellent shape for your age. White and red cell count both at adequate levels. Iron is good. Cholesterol and blood pressure is above average. Nothing appears to be the slightest speck out of the ordinary. They don't see it, you see. They don't see what I see. I noticed it in 2001, shortly after I died for the 11th time. I came home from the hospital with a clean bill of health, aside from the staggering fact that I had, in fact, died again. And upon glancing in the mirror, I noticed the strangest thing. No one else seemed to have noticed. I had tiny holes in my body. Small, indeed quite small, but through and through. You could stick a skewer through one side, and it would come out the other. And so I counted them that evening. There were 11. And every time I died after that, another hole would appear. The doctors never mentioned it in the slightest passing. And if I brought it up, why, no, Mr. Hicklewhite, I haven't the foggiest idea of what you speak. Holes? Holes, you say? No, I see no holes. It's not just the number of holes, either. They expand. Every time I die, they appear to grow larger, gaping wider than they had previously. They're now large enough to poke a pencil through. Every time I die, a piece of me is taken away. 17 deaths, 17 holes, growing larger in size as death calls me again and again. I fear I may, one day, disappear. My wife died today, Sunday, the 30th of January. She was the only family I had left. 18. I couldn't bear to live without my dear Agnes, you see. I hanged myself. When they found me, I had been dead for 4 hours. My body was as rigid as a board. Still, I was brought back. There's a hole in my forehead. If you stuck a straw in there, you may be able to suck what little memory of the situation I have left. My clothes no longer fit me. I'm wasting away. Though I have died 18 times, and though I have managed to crawl my way back every time, I have the sickest feeling in my stomach that death wants to play by its own rules. He'll take me when he's good and ready, and not a moment sooner. Yes, I'm quite sure I could die another 20 times, another 20 different ways, and I will waste away, and my body will bear many more holes, and eventually a shadowy figure will show up, only to point in my face, laugh, and say, "Yes, Tobias, I've had a spot of fun with you. Did you enjoy it as much as I did? As I search through my son's clothing trunk to find something suitable that will fit, I shudder to think of how I shall respond. I have now died a total of 26 times. That is 8 times in the past 3 years. Just over 2 deaths a year. I can no longer walk without feeling weak, brittle, as though I will fall where I stand. Although I realize I am no longer a young man, and I have gotten on in years, I know it has to do with the fact that the holes have eaten up the better part of both legs. After my most recent foray into the afterlife, I again mentioned the holes to a physician. Of course, there was a great speech, and, Tobias, there are no holes, though we fear you have dementia. I do not have dementia. I remember everything. For example, yesterday, the 6th of March, I had 2 boiled eggs, 3 rashers of bacon, and a glass of orange juice for breakfast. I know that I live in a 4-story apartment in Kensington, and that my building has had 7 break-ins in just 2 short years. I know that it has been just over 3 years since my dear Agnes departed this world for the next, and that whoever dared not to take me with her has been laughing ever since. Today, with 26 holes of varying sizes, I weighed myself. I'm down to a scant 9 stone 4. The doctor tells me that I'm physically fit as a fiddle, but, dear Tobias, we would like to have your brain scanned, for your delusions of grandeur regarding your weight and holes in your body are becoming too much. I agreed to the scan, if only to shut the lot of them up. I stopped caring to count how many times it's been. It was a train this time. Out of the more painful deaths I have experienced, it would rank in the top 3. The doctor at the hospital said, "While I have you here, Tobias, we really should discuss your brain scan. We found small tumors." No, those aren't tumors. I'm sure of it. They're holes. They're the exact size as the rest of my holes, the ones that have eaten away at my legs and arms, my chest, my face. As I attempt to explain this, it's, "Here, Tobias, these pills should help with the delusions, and don't hesitate to call us if you have any problems." Apparently, I'm allergic to my medication. My throat swelled up, and I once again was blinded by whiteness, surrounding me from all angles. My clothes are falling off of me. I can barely open my eyes. I know it will soon be time when the ruthless joke will come to an end. When I fell down the stairs this morning, I could hear a voice. "Tobias. Tobias." It sounded cruel and dark, like the darkest night without a light to guide you. It cut through the white light and left me feeling alone and cold and scared. I said, "Take me. Take me already. I'm 81 years old and I don't want to live anymore. I haven't wanted to live for a very long time. Soon. Soon. The next time I wake up, things will be different. I'm on dialysis. My organs are failing. With all the holes in my face, I find it hard to hear, as though I had wads of cotton stuffed inside. But through the haze, I can hear them talking. Is there any family to contact? No, he never married, never had any kids. He was an only child. Oh, they are very confused. Perhaps they're looking at the wrong chart. He won't have much longer. With any luck, it will be peaceful, and he'll die in his sleep. It doesn't matter. I'll just be brought back again. Blinking away the rolling fog in my vision, I'm unable to see anything but black as everything begins to fade away, and I'm taken for the 47th time. I'm so accustomed to seeing white that my eyes feel sore at first, and then I hear the voice again. Tobias. Tobias. What? What, I wonder? What could you possibly want now? It is your time, Tobias. Oh, thank you. I've suffered enough. You will be rewarded greatly for your suffering. You will be with your family now. Yes, that would be most kind of you. Lead the way. I reach for the gray, weathered, outstretched hand and let it guide me through the darkness. When I can finally see again, I see my wife and my son. Oh, Agnes. Oh, Jack. You're here. Who was he talking to?